Okay, everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have another cool prototype preview from the brand Goodspeed watches. A little bit about them. They are US based out of Sacramento, California, and they're basically a newer micro brand upstart coming out of Kickstarter. A little bit about this type of watch. I'd consider it that everyday adventure watch. Now, some key common characteristics and design language. You're looking for something that you can wear every day. Of course, you're going to want that sporty, legible, and tough type of balance. And I think the Scout really has that covered. So the Goodspeed Scout is really more than just a field watch. It's really falls into that go anywhere, do anything, or the GADA type watch, really sporting a fine balance of utilitarian sophistication. And it's also coming to Kickstarter early in 2021. Now, I just was drawn to this model in particular, because I thought that their Instagram ads were actually really interesting. They kind of had this cool mid-century vibe to them, and I thought that was awesome. Then I looked at the specs and I was like, whoa, that sounds really cool. So I reached out and I was happy that they were able to supply me with this quick little loaner that I could show to you guys as it kind of makes its way across to other reviewers. Now, I think, again, when you think of that kind of go anywhere, do anything, a lot of the times people think of these kind of overbuilt, tool watches, which is cool, and those can go anywhere, do anything. But I think the other side of that is also being able to, is the go anywhere part. And that doesn't necessarily just mean go to the top of the Himalayas. It also means be appropriate in other places, that are maybe less sporty. And I think that's the case here. It's a really, really handsome design. I dig it. And I think this absolutely is something you could wear every day, whether you're scaling the Alpines or not, which I think is a really cool feature. I dig the look, and then to throw in some of its capabilities, like having a screw down crown and having 200 meters of water resistance, it just makes it all the more appetizing and appealing. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. All right. So from a dimensions perspective, of course, you're going to get 38.5 millimeter diameter, which I think is about perfect for this type of watch. Only a 10 millimeter thickness, which is great. A 45.3 millimeter lug to lug. It is all stainless steel, brushed and polished. We do have a flat sapphire crystal with inner AR coating, so you do get a pretty nice clear view of that dial. Again, I look at this dial, and the word that keeps coming to my mind is handsome, because it's just clean cut and really great to look at. Now, in terms of the crown, it is a screw down crown and signed, and it actually has, I think, a pretty cool little logo there, as you can see, for the Goodspeed logo. So very nice from that standpoint. Inside, although you cannot see it, it's the Miyota 9039, so no date movement. So you're not going to have a ghost position in the crown settings, which is wonderful. It's a good movement, and it's very slim, which helps keep this thing slim, and it's a very clean little case back execution there, which I think serves its purpose, obviously, for this clean little watch. And I'm digging it. It's actually not that little feeling. I think the dial layout and the proportions really make it have more of a visual punch than you would expect from a 38.5 millimeter. I like that. It just makes it feel a little bit more toolish and sporty. Now, the dial, of course, you're getting that beautiful brushed finish there, which is outstanding. I love that. And then you, of course, get painted indices and polished hands. The lume does glow green. I don't know the specific combination in terms of, what type of lume it is, unfortunately. But it does glow green and does pretty well, so we'll get to that here in a bit. The bracelet has a 20 millimeter lug width, which is perfect. It has solid end links going into this nice 3-link bracelet with about a 2 millimeter taper there. So it's going to go down from 20 to 18. We do have this nice double locking push button clasp. And it's nicely signed. You do get a nice little kind of little chamfer there. It's not high polished, but I think it adds a little bit of a nice dimension and kind of softens, of course, the overall appearance, which I think is nice. So with all that, let's see how this thing looks on the wrist. All right, as you can see on my 7¼ inch wrist, this thing wears really, really well. And you almost are like, whoa, that looks larger. That doesn't look like a 38. And it's just the way that they work this dial and the proportions to the bezel. I mean, it's just a lot of things are in play to make this nice, tidy little watch actually have quite a bit of visual punch and impact, which I think is really smart from their part. And you can see also that the really short lug to lug distance helps keep it extra compact on wrist, even up close here where you're getting a lot of lens distortion and it's making the watch appear bigger. Here you can see it is really quite centered on the wrist. So there's so much that's going on in terms of the visual weight here, which I think is a real nice sign that they did their homework in making something that's extremely wearable, again, with that go anywhere, do anything kind of mantra. I mean, you could put this thing on a leather strap and then you can really dress this up. I mean, you could throw some black gator on that and honestly, it would look like a cool kind of little classy mid-century little kind of dress watch. So again, this is such a cool execution aesthetically, and then of course when you add, you know, hey, it's got a sapphire crystal screw down crown, 200 meters water resistance, you really can't get mad at it. And it's simple, right? It did something different in terms of that dial. Very, very different. You know, it has kind of touches of a sector dial there. But then everything else is, you know, pretty standard, and not in a bad way. It's just they didn't mess with anything that they didn't need to. They didn't have to reinvent the wheel. They said, hey, we'll get the right proportions, the right bracelets. Again, this isn't like something that's built to a luxury standard, but as far as wearing something every day, absolutely this thing is going to be able to take care of you and really be more than enough in terms of what you need. Now, it's not to say that you might not want more in terms of build quality and fit and finish, but this is definitely all you need in terms of kind of daily wear. So it is a looker, guys. I mean, look at the color shift on that silver dial, sometimes rendering very bright and almost white, and then you get the pale silver with the brushing really shining through from time to time. Also, that nicely done painted seconds hand is great. It's black with a red tip. Everything really ties in. I love the use of the fonts here. Again, it just ties into kind of that mid-century vibe, which I'm really digging. So with that said, let's actually get this back off the wrists, do some loom shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, we'll go ahead and hit the lights here. As you can see, not a huge loom beast, but you know what? With the dial layout, I don't know what you were necessarily expecting. Great looking watch though, but let's go ahead and work in some low light transition because you're not always going to be standing out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to be coming in and out of a building, maybe walking underneath an overhang or underneath the shade of a tree, or maybe just spending time in your favorite automobile. With that, it's nice to get some, you know, less than optimal lighting conditions on here, some mixed lighting to just see how these colors render, how the dial plays with the light, how the finishing holds the light there. You can see how uniform the light will actually go across that fine brushing. So you can see that it's nice and uniform, so really well done. And man, I love the color shifts on here, with the contrasting against that vertical brushing on the dial, and then kind of the more matted blue paint on that outer ring. I think it really, really plays well off of each other. Not super helpful in terms of, you know, legibility at times, but still handsome nonetheless. And honestly, a lot of times you'll be looking at it, boom, it's there, right? All you got to do is get the light to kind of reflect off of it and you're going to get a great look. So yeah, I'm digging that. Let's go ahead, get back to the full lighting here. Closing thoughts, guys. On the wrist, great size, even appears a bit larger visually, which is great. I know a lot of people kind of have trouble. I know I'm one of them. I have that one of those weird transitional wrist sizes at 7.25, where I feel like certain watches are too small and other ones are too large, and it can get a little bit messy. So I think having the smaller overall dimensions physically, but having a lot of visual punch is always a really nice feature. In terms of like comparable models go, this really reminds me of my old 38 millimeter Mito Multi-Fort. I love that thing. Screw down crown. I think it might have had 200 meters of water resistance, if not 100. I haven't pulled it out of the watch box in a while, honestly, because I feel like the proportions on the dial of that model made it wear so small, even though it was a 38 and it was a good fitting watch. I think visually it just didn't have enough punch and just felt almost feminine on the wrist. So this kind of reminds me of that, but infinitely more wearable ultimately. And I think with some really cool design language and nice quality. Really, for me, the bottom line on this one is this is just another great option to sit along with many other similarly spec'd and themed everyday adventure watches. I'm really digging that this kind of trend is catching on within that market. I know typically sports watches, we think of divers, but this kind of everyday adventure, go anywhere, do anything type watch, I think is really catching on, and I like that because it does offer you a little bit of a change up versus your typical kind of dive watch setup. And I collect a lot of divers, so by no means am I saying this is going to replace every diver outright, but it is nice to just have, again, a little change of pace from time to time, and it makes it a little bit more special when you do throw a dedicated diver on the wrist, because it's not maybe it wouldn't be your everyday piece. Maybe something like this you could wear every day, and then you transition into a formal diver for times when you're being a little bit sportier, maybe even if you want to step up kind of how dressy you are, if you're rocking, more of a desk diver and you're looking for that kind of classy, shiny, ballerish appeal that a lot of dive watches can exude. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.